Good morning, friends. Welcome to my first open collaboration for the fall. This is the first in a series of every Friday in November. I'm doing a fall freezer meal Friday open collaboration. So you're welcome to do a video on any sorts of freezer meals. Put just in the description below, let me know that you did a video. I'll go grab it and add it to the playlist. The playlist will also be linked in the description below. So this morning I have a sick toddler. Paul is not feeling very well. Last night he started with the sniffles and a cough and had a fever. So he's chilling out on the couch watching Blippi. I'm hoping he lets me get this done. We shall see. I'm going to go ahead and make 3 pumpkin pies today. 2 of them are gonna go in the freezer. 1 of them I'm gonna leave out because it's just cruel to make pumpkin pie and not eat any. The 2 are going to be for just around the holidays. I don't know if I'm gonna pull one out for Thanksgiving. I probably will. My mom is coming for Thanksgiving and she's gonna make a pumpkin cream cheese swirl cake, like one of those log cakes, which is so good. So I'll probably pull one out anyway, but they last great in the freezer. I cook them completely, let them completely cool, saran wrap foil, shove them in the freezer, and then you just pull one out and let it thaw in the refrigerator. Delicious. So we're gonna do that. So my original plan was to just get these guys, and I wanted to get 2 or 3 boxes of them and use my deep dish Pyrex pan. That's what I always do. My grocery store only had 1. I went the next weekend and they were out of pie crust completely. The only ones I could get were these ones, which are fine. They're very tasty. I like these a lot, but the pie pan isn't as deep. So I am doubling my recipe, but I'm gonna make 3 pies because I know it's gonna be too much to fill one. So 1 pie might not be as full. That's the one we'll eat today. And these pies work great for pumpkin pie or any kind of custard pie. You just wanna make sure that there's no cracks. Otherwise the filling will seep down into the pie shell and it's just not as good. So I checked mine. They all look really, really good. So I don't have to worry about that. And then for my recipe, I have always used, and I think my mom has always used, the recipe on the back of the Libby's pie tin. It's easy and the recipe doesn't ask you to pre-cook your pie shell. I never do. I'm not going to today. However, I always change things. So a couple years back, I was watching Food 52. Claire Saffitz is a pastry chef, I believe. And she was talking about how pumpkin pie isn't one of her favorites because it tastes like sweetened squash rather than a custard pie. And I was like, oh my God, it does. I like pumpkin pie, but I'll go for the apple or other pies first. So I tried her recipe and I like it so much more. It's more of a custard. I kind of did a hybrid over the years between Claire's recipe, which sometimes can be kind of complex. She like boils down, I think she browns butter and adds honey to it and like caramelized it. That's too many steps for me. So what I did take from her was she doubled the eggs, uses brown sugar instead of white sugar, and then instead of the evaporated milk, she uses heavy cream. So we're gonna do all 3 of those today. I'll put everything down below that I'm using because I have the Libby's recipe that I've like written all over a bazillion times. I'm not even gonna show it to you. And I'm also just gonna do everything in the Vitamix. It's easier. I do the eggs, sugar, spices in the Vitamix, let that go for a minute. Then I add the pumpkin, let that go for a minute, and then I add the heavy cream because I'm not looking to aerate the cream by any means. It's just, this mixes really well, and then it pours really well, and then it cleans really well. So that's why I'm using my Vitamix. Obviously I've used a stand mixer before many, many times, or the food processor works really well too. But let me get my pie crust back in the fridge and that one back into the freezer. And I'm gonna show you the other desserts that I made a couple days ago for this series. We made 3 apple crisps, I think. We ended up cooking one, it was delicious. Maybe there's 2 in the freezer. And then we made cookie doughs. I made homemade sugar cookie dough, which is my mom's recipe, love it. We made it for Halloween. I think I have some clips to show you what it looks like when it baked off. I doubled the recipe, half went in the freezer. I made my go-to chocolate chip cookie recipe. And then I made a quick and easy chocolate cookie dough mix from, I think it's Betty Crocker, where you just add like oil, butter, and eggs. And so you don't have to make homemade ones to make them freezer doughs. They're in little balls in the freezer, ready to go. We've already pulled out a couple. I think Saturday night we had a couple cookies. It was very convenient. So let me get everything all cleaned up. I'll put those videos up so you can watch them now. Okay, so we are gonna get ready on some apple crisp today. I am making 4 apple crisps for the freezer. I'm gonna give 1 to a friend, 1 for when we have people come over, Thanksgiving, and then just 1 extra one for around the holidays. That's my thought. So I'm gonna make this 4 times, and I'm kind of using 2 recipes here. I'll leave them below. My favorite is from happymoneysaver.com. She just gives instructions on how to cook it from frozen. So I like her recipe, and I like how she melts the butter to use in the apple crisp topping. But it's for every 8x8 pan, it's 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of brown sugar. So it's a lot of crumb topping, which I'm not against, but I don't have 8 cups of brown sugar. So I found another really good recipe by the Chunky Chef that just kind of tones down the topping a little bit. So I'm going to be using her topping, but kind of using the other one's instructions, if that makes sense. So I'll link both of these. So first up, let me peel all my apples, and I'm going to put them in some lemon water. So here's the deal. I bought these apples at the grocery store. They're in unmarked bags. They don't say what type they are, and the table that they were on said, Honeycrisp and Gala. Gala is what I do not want. Honeycrisp is what I did want. They looked all identical. Now that I'm thinking back, they're probably all Gala and they were out of Honeycrisp, but the sign was just still there. So I think I have 2 bags of Gala, which stinks because they kind of like mush apart when you make them into apple crisp. So I was able to get 3 recipes worth of the apples, and then I went ahead and snagged a Golden Delicious from the fridge. That was just my eating apples. And I just happened to have a bag of Honeycrisp apples from Misfit Market from yesterday. That was just for eating. So I threw those in there, but these are the Gala or Fuji, I can't remember which, and they just fall apart. Delicious eating apple, but not great for baking. So I'm hoping this mix is enough to kind of counter the mushy apple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how many pans this fills up. If it fills up 3, that's totally fine. I'll just make do. 3 is more than enough. If it makes 4, cool. And then I'm going to move on to the topping, and then we're going to get these guys in the freezer. Okay, we are starting with 3, and I just sprayed them. Just going to bring them around my bowl here. So that's my old-fashioned oats. And that's all-purpose flour. And then cinnamon, which I'm just going to eyeball. And then salt. Here is the butter. All right, let's mix all of this. So again, I'm sure there's no clean way to do this. So I'm just gonna use my hands and pack it in. So the first recipe I was doing, the one that I said I didn't have enough brown sugar for, she did say that you want it to be mounding, and when you bake it, it will kind of, not collapse, but bake down. So these are pretty full. I think these look delicious. So I'm going to just wrap these up in plastic wrap and then some foil and just mark what they are, and then these are ready for the freezer. Okay, so I know you can't see that. I just wrote AC on here, 350 degrees, 20 minutes covered, and then 40 minutes uncovered. I'm leaving this one out because I just can't resist. It looks so good. So it's actually only 7 in the morning right now. I'm gonna put this in the fridge, and at dinner time, I'm gonna pop this in the oven, 350 for about 40 minutes. And I'll show you what this one looks like. But these two are going in the freezer. I'm not gonna give this to my girlfriend now because I don't know what the apples are gonna do. So these are gonna be for us, one for when family comes over and just another one for the holidays. So I'll get this one in the freezer. So I'm pretty sure I have everything I need to make 3 cookie doughs for the freezer. The first one we're gonna start out with is my mom's recipe for sugar cookies. And it is actually 2 days before Halloween. One of our traditions is actually to make sugar cookies for Halloween and decorate them. So I'm gonna make the dough for that. That's gonna go in the fridge. And I'm just gonna double the recipe, and then the other half I'm gonna stick in the freezer, and we'll make rolled sugar cookies around Christmas time. The second one I want to make is just one I make all the time. I just make chocolate chip cookies. And weirdly, my favorite recipe is the back of an old bag of Wegman's brand chocolate chips. So that's the kind I'm doing. Just doing one, and I scoop it into little balls, freeze it. Half the time Matt eats the cookie dough frozen, but it's nice to kind of just pull out a couple and cook them in the oven. Delicious. So I'm doing those, and then my grocery store had these mixes on sale for 2 for something. So I don't know if anybody else does this, but me, my mom, I think my sister does too. We use this as a cheat at the holidays to make peanut butter blossoms. It's just so easy. So I try to find these, and around the holidays, you can't. So when I went to get the 2 for, I wanted to get 2 of these. They only had 1 left, so I snagged it, and I just got this guy because he looked good to me. So we're gonna go ahead, mix him up, scoop him into little balls, and also freeze him. So that way we have 2 different kinds. So all the recipes, my chocolate chip cookie recipe and the sugar cookie recipe, I'll link below. This one, I mean, you can just grab this at the store. Okay, so I'm going to use my stand mixer here, but you can absolutely use a hand mixer. And the other thing that I do a little bit different is I add the salt, baking soda, or baking powder, whatever the recipe calls for. I always add that just to my butter. Somebody actually on one of my videos gave me a tip to do that, because sometimes my baking soda and baking powder are a little clumpy, and this helps kind of break them up. So I'm going to do that a little bit different. Well, this is going to be fun. I, for the life of me, cannot get my vanilla open. The top was getting rather sticky, so ugh. I do oddly have powdered vanilla. I just don't like to use that because it tints the dough, but we're gonna use that because I can't get this open. So we are gonna start with the sugar cookies, and again, I'm doubling this recipe. Original recipe below. Okay, so there goes all the butter. That took a while. Just 1 sugar. there's all the sugar. So now I'm putting in my salt. It's my baking powder. And here is that vanilla powder I was telling you about. I hope it doesn't, I'm going to use like half the amount because sometimes it does tint the cookies, but it does give good flavor. So I'm going to turn this on and then we're going to add our eggs. Okay, so we give this a scrape. So now we're going to add our flour, and there is quite a bit of it. So let's see if I can mix this without getting the flour all over the place. Okay, perfect. So I haven't used my KitchenAid in a while. I did on, what was that, cinnamon rolls, I think for Father's Day. And I talked about how this machine is so old. This particular one I got in 2009 when I moved to Virginia. And it's just the pin right here that holds this top on keeps popping out. And the locking mechanism doesn't work anymore. Which sounds silly, but like when you're trying to make bread or like this, I have to hold the top down because it keeps popping up. So I'm always hoping that I kill it somehow. I really want the bigger one. Like I said, this is for 2 batches. Let me just get that out of the way for a sec. We're gonna just keep using this. I'm not even gonna clean it for the next cookies. Let me dump this whole thing out in plastic and then we'll divide it in half. Okay, just going to kind of shape it. I'm going to use this opportunity real fast to write on the bag before I put the dough in. Sugar, cookies. So we're going to bake this at 375 for 8 to 10 minutes. Obviously that depends on how thick or thin you roll the cookie. So just eyeballing this in half. One down. So this one I'm just going to wrap in plastic wrap. That's going to throw in the fridge. I'll probably bake those off tomorrow. If you were going to make these and bake them today, you just want to chill this for about an hour before you roll out and then bake them at the 375 for 8 to 10 minutes. And since we're going to be cutting them out and decorating them before I post this video, I will try to remember to post a video of what they look like when they're cooked too. Or pictures at least. Okay, moving right along, let me bring this guy back into focus. So here's my chocolate chip cookie dough. recipe on the back of this bag. That's what I'm going off of. So we've got 2 sticks of butter. I'm gonna add my brown sugar. And some white sugar. Give us a little mix. Okay. So directly to the butter sugar, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to go ahead and add my vanilla powder. And just get that mixing on low. Next we add the eggs. I'm not having good luck at cracking these today. Here we go. 2. I just put them in all at the same time. So mix that for a minute. And then here's the weird ingredient. Is just water. So the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of just water. And I'm just gonna scrape this down. And then let's keep our fingers crossed that I have enough flour. It's cutting it close. Okay, just enough. And give that a little mix on low. And then before that's completely done, I'm just gonna add an entire bag of chocolate chips. You can use whatever kind you want. Semi-sweet, milk chocolate, there's like a bunch of different kinds. Or you can mix them. I personally like a mix of peanut butter chips and chocolate chips, but Matt does not care for that one. I don't know what is wrong with him. Tell me below what your favorite chips are to put in your chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so let me just push this away out of the side. And now I'm going to do is just scoop all of these close together on a cookie sheet, throw this in the freezer, and then we'll pop it into a Ziploc bag. These cook at 375 for 12 to 15 minutes. And I made cupcakes earlier for Paul's Halloween party tomorrow, so my scoop has chocolate frosting in it, but clearly I did not even clean it. It's fine. Okay, here are these beauties. So the only thing I'm trying to accomplish by putting these in the freezer is just to get them hard enough that I can pick them up and put them in a freezer bag. And then my only other tip is when you want to bake these up from frozen, what I do is I put them out on a cookie sheet and then preheat my oven. And by the time your oven is preheated, they're soft enough, and I usually just give them all a little bit of a smush and then bake them, and they come out perfect every time. So next up, I'm making these the same way. I'm going to just follow the directions on the back of the bag, and we're going to scoop them up and freeze them and then put them in a zipper bag. so let's get started. Don't mind the bump in the way. So like I said, this is just about order of operations here. I am using not Libby's, but pumpkin puree from Thrive, not the pumpkin pie stuff. I got my brown sugar, my eggs, my heavy cream, and the Libby's recipe says to use cinnamon, ginger, cloves, which I've absolutely done, but I'm going to cheat and use pumpkin pie spice. That just makes my life easy. So the first thing I'm gonna do is get my eggs, my pumpkin pie spice, and a little bit of salt in here. And I'm just gonna blend that for a minute just to get it kind of lightened up. I also get, I think I've talked about this, I get eggs fresh from a farm and I'm just hand picking the biggest ones I can find. So that was 8 eggs. I'm doubling the recipe, and then from the Libby's can, I'm doubling the amount of eggs. Then some salt, pumpkin pie spice, and where'd my sugar go? Here it is. I hope I have enough in here. I need to make more brown sugar, or I'm going to Costco next week. I might just buy some. So I'm just gonna get this on the mixer to break up those eggs. I'm gonna aerate the eggs just a little bit. So on my Vitamix, I'm probably gonna put on like 3, just for like a minute. Okay, so I let that go for, like I said, about a minute. Because it's nice and bubbly, everything's all blended. So now I'm going to add my pumpkin, and I'm going to leave out the heavy cream for a second. Okay, so now I'm just gonna get this on the blender just till that pumpkin is blended in. Nothing too exciting. Smells like a really good smoothie. So that's blended, and now I'm going to add, in lieu of the evaporated milk, which I have nothing against, the heavy cream just gives it a lot more flavor. So I'll just get this in here. So now I don't want to whip that cream by any means, so I am just mixing this until the cream is mixed all the way through. Beautiful. And now I have this convenient spout to divvy it up. Okay, so let me bring it over to my pie shells. Okay, so here's my pie shells. They were just hanging out. I took them out of the freezer when I started this, so they're thawed, but not super thawed. And I just have them on cookie sheets with some parchment, just in case it leaks over. And my oven is at 425. And I'm just going to try to divvy this up evenly between the 3. Okay, so we're gonna put this in the 425-degree oven at the bottom shelf. Put those right there. And then open this one. Okay, so that is going to be 425 for 15 minutes, and then reduce the temp to 350, and it says for 40 to 50 minutes, but keep in mind that was a recipe for a deep dish pie, and I use the regular one, so I'm gonna probably check it in about 25 minutes, 30 minutes, something like that. I'm just looking for it to be not wet looking in the middle, and does it say anything? Until a knife is inserted in the middle comes out clean. So I'm going to record the time for the description or recipe below, so you have it if you want to make the smaller ones. So we shall see how long this takes. So here are my delicious pies. They're out of the oven. They're cooled enough where I can handle them, but they're still a little bit warm. I'm letting them cool completely. This is probably my favorite one. It's the one that baked by itself, and this was on the very lowest rack, and it just set up really beautifully. That hole is me poking a knife in it. And then these two look like they're still a little wet in the middle. I don't know if the camera can pick that up, but they're set and they were starting to crack just a little bit, which doesn't really bother me. I put whipped cream on mine anyway. So I'm going to let these cool. I don't know if I mentioned, these were in there for 30 minutes. I don't remember what the time was now. It was 425 for like 15, 20 minutes, and I lowered it to 350 and I wasn't sure the temperature. I'll list everything down below. So I'm going to let these cool completely while me and Paul have lunch. I'm going to put saran wrap on them, and then I'm going to put these two in the freezer. We're going to have them around the holidays. This one I'm going to pop in the fridge, and we're going to have some tonight. If I remember, I'll show you what a slice looks like. So we'll be back. Thank you so much for spending the morning baking with me. If you like these recipes, please give them a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and if you did a video for this collab and you want me to add it to the playlist, just let me know in the description box below. Happy holidays, happy baking, and I'll see you next time. Bye.